I'm doing some broken shit. I need to
Yeah.
stop the shit that I'm doing. Like, yo, we sucked at that, bro.
Yeah,
I'm only
so
broken because you fucking suck. You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, what up, everybody? You are back in tune with another episode of In the Fields podcast. It is your
We're
host, Johnny,
back.
with my beautiful, lovely, amazing wife, Lisa.
Hi,
And yeah, man, we are
guys.
back. And as you guys can see, we decided not to be lazy today. Even though the Couch Chronicles are fun and they're great
They're
to
comfy.
keep providing you guys the great content that you guys support so much.
I wanted to do the set
Yeah,
tonight.
man, we wanted to get the setup set up today. Especially I got out of work early today, so it's good. But yeah, man, happy Wednesday to all the feelers who are tuned in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening,
All the things.
all the goods. And yeah, man. On today's episode, we are going to really be exploring the idea of defensiveness and how just how that can look different for everybody. And
I feel we all
know.
experience it.
well, I think too, it's a form of protection. You know what I mean? Essentially, you're just trying to protect yourself. The reasoning behind it or what it stems from, obviously,
It's for different
it's
things.
unique to every individual.
Guilt, self-esteem, ego, criticism.
I
Like, there's
mean-
so many different reasons as to why your body wants to become defensive.
Yeah, and you kind of get into that. It's like your body and your mind's way of telling you, you're under attack. So like,
In some way, shape, or form.
yeah, and again, what that means for every individual can be different depending on where it stems from. Because for some people it's something that's been embedded since childhood. For some other people it's pride and
Yeah.
ego, and there's a bunch of different reasons. But yeah, man, we'll get into that later on in the episode. I want to start today's episode with question of the day. As you guys know, we typically drop the topic of the following week's episode a little bit ahead of time, so this way you guys have the opportunity to send in your questions, and we appreciate all your support and everything you guys are sending in. So keep doing that. And yeah, man, I think
Appreciate
eventually I want to open up like an anonymous way, like, to collect stuff from people, like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes some people like don't even want us to know who
Yeah.
is
It makes sense.
sending it. So like maybe we create like an anonymous mailbox or some sort of like
Yeah, like
anonymous,
an email or something.
yeah, something like that. But yeah, we'll make it as open as possible for you guys. And yeah, like I said, we're gonna start today's episode off with question of the day. Again, shout out to all the feelers who are tuning in. And here we go. Our question is, hey, Johnny and Lisa, I've noticed that whenever my partner brings something up that I could have done differently, I immediately jump into explaining or defending myself, even when they're not being harsh. I don't want to be that way, but it's like an automatic reflex. Why do we get defensive so fast when the people we love, or why do we get defensive so fast with the people we love? And how can I learn to actually listen instead of trying to protect myself?
That's a good question. I mean, I've definitely been there.
I mean, in my personal opinion, I just think that when you get defensive with the people you love, it typically stems from, like I said, something that in your childhood, you know what I mean? It's the result of being criticized by people you love, or maybe not feeling
Being shut out,
worthy,
rejection.
or oftentimes we associate criticism with we did something wrong.
Yeah.
And then when you think of you doing something wrong, you'll associate that with
Some sort of trouble.
not being worthy, or not being, lovable in a sense. So
Yeah.
I think too, when you're young and you make mistakes, especially when those mistakes are so harshly criticized, that's what tends to create that narrative in your brain that people who love me criticize me harshly, and then you get defensive and you take that into your adulthood, especially within the relationships that you have, whether it's friendships or relationships with a significant other. So I think that's where people tend to react, if you will, or get defensive, especially with those that they love, because again, when it's somebody you love, you are trying so hard to gain their approval, and you are trying, you're putting your best foot forward with those people. So it's like when you're getting criticized, if you're not somebody who can take constructive criticism, you'll tend to get defensive and try to protect yourself. And, I think that just comes from, again, having to always feel like when it came to the people you loved, you had to never be wrong, because if you made a mistake, then it deemed you unworthy, or you would get harshly punished for said mistake and things of that nature. But yeah, I think the best advice would be, when you feel yourself getting to that point of defensiveness, you really have to just ask yourself, is this something I need to be protecting myself from? Because oftentimes the people we love, especially, in healthy relationships, those people are often offering criticism or offering some type of constructive advice, in a way to help you be a better version, not only of yourself, but also within the relationship. Oftentimes when you tell me there's something that I can do different when either approaching you, or, when we communicate or problem solve, it's a matter of me attempting to apply that to the next bridge we cross, so this way we can cross it more smoothly.
Yeah.
So, and I know you don't tell me those things because you're trying to tell me I'm wrong. You tell me those things because even though we handled whatever said situation, it's really just like an optimistic suggestion of how we could handle it better next time. Because at the end of the day, when we're in a relationship, our goal is to try to be better, whether it's for each other or for ourselves or for our kids, so on and so forth. So
yeah, because a lot of the time, like how you're handling certain situation, a lot of it is learned behavior throughout time, and a lot of the time, unfortunately, we're just not aware because we're just so used to handling things a certain way. And it isn't until somebody gives us that feedback, like, hey, maybe next time you could try doing this instead of this, or trying to call you out for those things or bring it to your attention or whatever the case may be, for you to be like, oh, you know what, you're right. Maybe I didn't have to respond like that. I'm so sorry. Like being able to hold yourself accountable and discuss those things without taking it so defensively, because like you said, it's not an attack. Like you're not trying to purposely bring this person down or trying to make them feel some type of way. You're just like, hey, like what you're doing isn't okay. It doesn't make me feel good. But you have to be open to hearing these things, because by you getting defensive, you also don't realize how like distant you're making yourself become, because now that person that's on the receiving end of that is also feeling like not heard, not loved, pushed away. Like now they're starting to feel a bunch of negative emotions because of how you're choosing to respond to this, because there's so many different types of defensiveness. Like what is causing it? Are you, shutting down? Are you counterattacking? Are you just in denial? Like, what is it that you are, like, what is it that's stemming from this? You know what I mean? It's just, it sucks because, like you said, a lot of it starts at childhood, because a lot of the time as kids, when we're wrong, 9 times out of 10, you're just getting punished. Like, you're not really spoken to, at least our generation. I know, like, with us and a lot of people our age that I know definitely try to talk to their kids more and explain things a little bit more to them. Whereas like me, I was go get in your fucking room.
yeah,
Don't come out until dinner type shit. And it's
You're
like,
grounded.
what did I do? Like, you're not even telling me what happened. Like, and that was almost every time. So naturally over time, you're like, I'm just wrong. I'm just always wrong. I'm just going to get in trouble. And that comes from traumatic relationships and everything, where it's like now you fear, this person breaking up with you the second you do something wrong. Like there is no redemption. But that's not true. Like there is. You can grow from it. You just have to learn to be patient and communicate these things.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes people don't realize that, defensiveness, we mistake it oftentimes for protection, when really it's just not allowing love to come in, you know? Oftentimes it's blocking, it's a wall, you know, and people typically refer to it like that, you know, like they'll say like you have your guard up or you have your walls up, and that is how you keep things out. Yeah. So how can you expect to grow from within if you're blocking everything out? And I mean, constructive criticism is only constructive if you're applying
what you learn,
those blueprints, you know, like if you're willing to rebuild and grow, then the criticism can be constructive. But for as long as you are defensive, the criticism can't help you. It'll always feel like an attack.
I definitely feel like criticism is important. That's the only way we learn. Because if we keep going through life and nobody's calling us out, how are we going to ever know we're wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, granted, you know, you learn from experience as well, but the thing with criticism is as long as it's coming from a good place and, you know, the source of it is good, then I think that's where you can determine, you know, how well you can receive it. Because I'm not going to take criticism from, like, for example, like, I'm not going to take criticism from somebody who's not doing what I'm doing or doing what I aspire to do. Because, like, what the fuck do you know?
Yeah.
But, like, if I'm taking criticism from somebody within my industry or somebody who is above me in my industry for work-related, you know, criticism, or somebody from that I love that wants the best for me and has my best interest in mind, then that's completely different, you know? And I think that's the big one, especially for the question of the day, is, like, figuring out what kind of criticism or what kind of things are being said to you, especially when they're not being delivered in a harsh way, like, which is something we'll discuss later in the episode as far as, like, tonality and things.
I was going to say that would be my other point.
The one thing they mention is that it's not even being delivered harsh and it's coming from somebody they love. Like, it's taking a step back to hear what is actually being delivered to you. You know, I think that would be the best piece of advice I would give the listener who sent in question of the day, is just, you know, really open up your eyes to the perspective of what is being delivered to you. Like, is it getting delivered? You said it's not getting delivered in a harsh way. It's coming from somebody you love, which 9 times out of 10 is somebody who has your best interest at heart. And so these are things that should allow you to receive what they're saying. And I think you said it earlier today, not every action requires a reaction. So sometimes it's okay to just hear what is being said and sit on it. Yeah. And that's okay, especially if you are a person who is reactive. Like, sit on it.
Yeah, like, if you know that about yourself.
Take it in and just be like, all right, I'm going to need a minute to sit with that, because my initial thought was to, but you know what? Let me, yeah, I mean, so again, that would be the best piece of advice I would give.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, sometimes you have to just give yourself time. So like he said, if you know that you're a very reactive person, open up and communicate that to your partner, because from what I've learned, a lot of the time, defensiveness strikes in like chords with anxiety, because it's like a fight or flight kind of situation where, depending on your background and everything, like, you may be very reactive and quick to want to just defend yourself. Yep. And if you know that you're that type of person, maybe just take a second, like, take whatever's being said to you and be like, listen, I don't want to respond the wrong way. Can you just give me a second to sit with whatever it is that you said, so I could just process it a little bit better, and then we could come back to this and discuss it as a team, and then take it from there. But there has to be some type of patience, some type of understanding about yourself, about your partner, and just see how you can come together to address whatever it is that is wrong, because you guys got to remember that it's not you versus them, it's y'all versus the problem. And that's as simple as it gets.
Facts. I like that. Yeah, that was a good question, man.
I did like that.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you. Shout out to the listener who submitted question of the day. As you guys know, like I said, follow us on all the socials, so this way you guys get a little bit of insight as to what the next topic we're going to be speaking about is. This way you guys can send in your questions and we can answer them here on the potty, baby. But before we continue to the rest of the episode, let's get into a word from our sponsors. Ooh La Lade, the best lemonade, not only in the 610, not only in the Lehigh Valley, not only ABE, not only in Pennsylvania, but the entire world and galaxy. Yes, guys, Ooh La Lade, all natural, made with love, fresh squeezed.
The best.
The best. I am looking forward to the menu revision that they have coming up.
Yes,
because
they were doing
then we can fully
revisions.
stock. Until then, guys, make sure you reach out to them on Instagram at @Ula_Lade. Once again, that's at @Ula_Lade. Tell them Johnny and Lisa sent you, so this way you guys can also experience the world's best lemonade. I'm not saying that's a fact, but you guys have heard it here first, and you guys will only believe it when you try it. And I promise you, when you try it, you'll know it's the real deal. You won't be
disappointed.
So again, guys, Ooh La Lade, the best and most amazing drink sponsor of In the Fields podcast. We appreciate you guys. And yeah, man, back to our episode. And we are back again with another episode of In the Fields podcast. Again, guys, we are kind of taking a deep dive into the idea of being defensive or having your walls up and your guard up and things of that nature. And I feel like everybody, has those moments. And for some, obviously, it looks different. And for others, it can be similar as well. I know oftentimes, especially when you have grown up in households where people argue a lot or aren't good at communicating or problem solving or playing the blame game, things of that nature. Oftentimes that carries over into relationships, and I mean we touched on that briefly earlier. But yeah, man, I just think that when it comes to being defensive, there's just a big difference between being defensive and obviously standing up for yourself, because those are sometimes
it's necessary.
Sometimes we don't understand the difference. And I think with being defensive, you're protecting yourself from possible growth, you know what I mean? Or improvement on behavior. And oftentimes we, are defensive because, we're trying to protect our pride or our ego, versus like standing up for yourself, I think, is when you're choosing to protect what you believe is morally right, So it's like when something is morally right and you're standing up for that, you're like standing on business, you know what I mean? Like, I'll die on this hill type of shit, versus like when you're being defensive, it's like oftentimes I feel like with being defensive, we're protecting unhealthy habits or we're protecting unhealthy behavior instead of communicating effectively. But even within those moments, I think as we allow ourselves to grow and, within our relationship, like learning how to not be defensive was something I think me and you both tried really hard to, learn, because it became essential to our communication,
our relationship overall.
How we problem solve now and how we get through those moments of, those moments where we're fucking arguing or, where there's an issue and we need to solve it, or, I didn't like how you approached me here or said this and tone that. And I think we were talking about that earlier, where like, delivery and tonality is big. And I know that was something that I struggled with because, again, I grew up in a household where like yelling and screaming was how people solved problems.
Yeah, but at the same time, like for me equally, I also grew up in that kind of household. But for me, like not only did it make me quick to go 0 to 100 for a really long time, but I like over time I hated that about myself.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where like I no longer wanted to be like that, but now like raised tones, bad attitudes, like aggressiveness, like yelling, anything like that, I shut down instantly. Yep. And I go back to that, scared little 4 or 5-year-old girl who didn't know what was going on, and all I could do was hide in my bedroom until the fighting stopped. You know what I mean? So, and at that time, like as a kid, you can't speak up, you can't say anything because that's grown folk business. You stay out of that. You know what I mean?
Yep,
But you
yep.
don't realize like how that's still affecting your child, like how that's leaving them. So, yeah, that it's hard. It really is.
Yeah, man. I think just through our relationship, we learned a bunch of different tactics, if you will, that helped us get over the hump of being so defensive. Like, not that we still don't have moments till this day,
Yeah.
because of course it's a matter of unlearning and relearning. So, I know for us, instead of, we try really hard not to yell, we try really hard not to raise our voices. You know, I know we ask each other those pertinent questions whenever one of us, is offering, that criticism or, offering that suggestion of how we can handle things better. Oftentimes, I notice we will ask, again, questions that kind of elaborate on that. Like, what made you feel like that? Is there something, I could do better? How could I show up better for you next time? Yada, yada,
Yeah.
yada. So I feel like,
I love those questions.
right. And again, it's, learning, unlearning that, you know, being, I guess it's kind of learning that you're not always doing it the best way, and I feel oftentimes we think we have it figured out and we know what's best.
Well, everybody needs something different too. That's why like one of my favorite questions is like, how can I love you better today?
Yeah.
Is there anything I can do differently for you today?
Yeah.
Or like things along those lines, because what might work for you definitely didn't work for my exes. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody's different. You have to be able to like be willing to have those conversations, because it's not like somebody's trying to pick you apart, or like, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's getting to better know your partner, especially long-term relationships, because everybody changes, and we've talked about that so many times. Like throughout the years, we all change. We change jobs, we change careers, we change what we want to do. Like we look at life differently. Like there's so many things about us that change. So it's not like uncommon or not normal for you to want to keep up with that with your partner throughout time. Like, hey, is there anything different you need me to do now? Like, is there any way I could like cater to you better or help you in this, whatever the case is. But again, it boils down to communication too, and being willing to be heard and understood and listen.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes too, when we get into serious relationships, we think we know everything the other person may want or need. Oftentimes I think we talked about it. I don't know if it was last episode or maybe it was the episode prior, but we were talking about like these the standards that the internet sets for you and all these things.
Oh, yeah,
And
that helps.
sometimes you think you're a fucking know-it-all until you really fall in love with somebody, and you start to realize that just because you may think you know how to love does not mean that you know how this person wants to be loved. And if this is somebody that you really love, then learning how they want to be loved is going to be one of those things that might go against the grain, if you will, So for you, what I mean? Sometimes it's, we might meet somebody and we're doing 80% of what they want from us. But like you have to learn and apply that other 20% so that you can always be 100 for your partner, So, but oftentimes we also associate that. Like I think people get defensive when they're doing 60, 70% of what their partner wants, and when their partner's asking for that other 20%, or, oftentimes we get defensive because we see that as an inadequacy, and we feel like I'm not fulfilling.
Yeah.
I'm doing it wrong, or I'm not doing enough. You know what I mean? And I'm a victim of that all the time. Like, there's times where you've literally have come to me and just been like, babe, I missed when you used to do this, or I loved this, or, hey, has everything been okay? Because I feel like our communication hasn't really been there, or like, like there's times where I'm like working stupid hard and I'm just like, in my own days, or sometimes I'm just having shitty moments and like you'll see me, I'm like playing my game more often and like, I'm like distancing myself and like you might say something and in that moment, I remember earlier in our relationship where I used to be very defensive and be like, well, I'm doing all this, dude. What the fuck?
I remember.
Versus now seeing it as like, hey, this part of our relationship is slipping. It would be nice to, for us to tend to that part of our relationship.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing it as an attack or seeing it as an inadequacy where I wasn't coming through, it was more of like a reminder of, hey, let's get back to this beautiful place, like where, everything is clicking for us. Like, obviously, there's going to be moments where it's not. And I think we've done pretty well with communicating that, when we're having long days, long weeks, long times. There's times where we've literally have been like, yo, bro, I don't know what's wrong with me. I thank you for your patience. And I know I've been distant and da-da-da-da-da. Like, there's times where you've just randomly apologized to me. Like, after a long day of work, you've come home not wanting to do shit. And I'm like, it's okay. I'll cook dinner. And you'll just, like, curl in bed or take a nap. And, you've come to me and been like, I'm just so sorry. Like, I was distant today. Like, and granted, I don't never, again, we're at that point in our relationship where, like, we're not penalizing each other for that shit.
I was going to say, again, I think a communication again is such a big deal because we are at a place now where we're able to communicate these things and there's way less opportunity for either of us to even get defensive because we are so open about where we are on a day-to-day basis that like, hey, I can't really show up today. Yep. I'm sorry, but mentally I'm not here. I'm very drained. I just need a day.
Hell yeah.
And again, like, you just have to be willing to have those tough conversations, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable admitting that, like, I'm not okay today.
Yep.
You have to be willing to do these things.
Yeah, you can't fake the funk, man. Like,
especially with your partner.
Yeah, because your partner is going to pick up on it the most, man. Like, and I mean, I know sometimes you can't tell, but, like, most of the time you're pretty good with it. Like, because I'm a very functional...
Yeah, you are.
I am such a functional depressed person. It's so like we are complete opposites in that aspect. Like you wear your heart on your sleeve in that respect.
Yeah.
Where you're like
I'm not okay.
You're like I'm about this close to crashing out at work. I'm about to leave. And then I'm gonna come home and take a nap. And then me, I'm like the dog.
Everything's fine.
I'm like the dog in the fire. The dog in the fire gif who's drinking his coffee. I'm going to put it right here. But like, he's just, it's fine. This is fine. This is fine.
Nothing's wrong at all.
Wrong? What? 3 lefts, baby. Everything is right. You know what I mean? Like, so, it's so funny that like, we're different in that regard. But again, even you can tell, like, even on the days where I'm trying to, I'm keeping my best.
I just really know you. That's the thing.
Yeah, nah, you could tell I'm not my bubbly, because that's what you'll say. You're like, where's my bubbly husband? You know what I mean? Like, because I'm usually like talkative.
You're like extra goofy when you're like, okay.
Yeah, when I'm like good, like that's when I'm like, I don't even know what to do with myself. My ADHD starts kicking, dude.
Yeah.
Like
when you're like very just calm and just like me, like just going about your day, I'm like, something happens today?
Yeah, you
like,
thinking
you
about
okay?
too much over there. What you thinking about? But yeah, man, I just again, I think that the defensiveness, it's it's just as rooted within trying to protect your ego, your pride, or you're worried about being wrong, or you associate again, you're associating this criticism or this desire to or this other person's desire to give you constructive criticism. You're associating that with like just some sort of inadequacy, and you feel like I've got to defend myself. I've got to I know who I am. Like, you're not going to tell me otherwise. And I feel like people block love with that shit, man.
Yeah, I
Often.
think it's important to evaluate the situation too, because like just fake scenario, like if you were to do something that upset me and I called you out for it, but I'm like ignoring the fact that like I did something prior to that like pushed you into your decision making and like you ended up doing something in return. I'm just like completely ignoring like what I started technically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm just focusing all the blame on you and getting defensive. Well, it wasn't me, even though you're trying to tell me and explain to me like what I did. But if I'm so quick to be like, no, 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 this isn't about me. We're focusing on what you did. Like, that's not okay. Like, you have to be willing to be open to the whole entire situation. And it's also, it can't be a tit for tat. Like I said, not every action needs a reaction. Just because you did something doesn't mean I need to one up you and do something back or put you down more or make you feel like shit just because I don't want to acknowledge whatever it is that I did or how I played a part. But then it boils down, like, again, like, it's not me versus you. It's always going to be us versus the problem. Like, what actually is going wrong right now? And how can we fix it? How can we talk about this?
Yeah.
Like, do you need a minute? Like, can we sit down later? Like, what do we need to do to figure out this situation?
Yeah, and again, like I want to pick up right off where you said, is viewing the situation as a whole. Oftentimes it is back and forth. You know what I mean? You're sending it my way, I'm sending it your way. So
now we both defensive.
It's a matter of oftentimes like in those situations we're constantly switching roles. Like you'll say something to me and then I get on the defensive, and then I'm saying something back to you and now you're getting on the defensive, instead of us like trying to, again, figure it out the best way that we can and ensure that we're doing it in the best manner. Am I using a good tone when I speak to you? Do I sound angry? Am I coming off condescending? Like, these are all the questions,
Are we blame shifting?
Yeah, like, are we holding ourselves accountable in this situation? And again, are we conducting ourselves in a manner that is also receptive? Mm-hmm. So I think people fail to realize that oftentimes too, like people get defensive because shit just be delivered wrong. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you don't come correct, then I feel like I need to protect myself,
especially in those
because
moments.
you're speaking down to me, or you're condescending, or
you're
you know what I mean. You're getting loud and rah rah, so
like I don't do well with that.
Right? No, I hear you 100%. I know
a lot of people don't do well with that.
This is why I've literally have learned to, when you say things to me, like there's literally times you'll say something to me and I'll be like, I'm gonna walk away before I say some dumb shit, because
I've even learned how to do that now.
Because I feel, again, I'm still unlearning these unhealthy habits of going from 0 to 100 and hearing something, and it's like when it hits my ears, the way that my brain converts what the fuck you said. That's the part that I'm unlearning. Like, because again, oftentimes, like, we hear shit from people and our brain is like, so what you trying to tell me is, and right, you know what I'm saying? Like we'll hear some shit like what you'll say versus what we hear is two totally different things because of the defensiveness. Like, you'll be like, baby, next time I think, you can handle it this way. And in my brain will be like, beep, beep, boop, boop, boop. Nigga, you fucking suck. You know what I mean? Like, or like, yo, bro, you are doing it the dumbest way ever. You use a dumbass. Like, I don't know why my brain does that, but then immediately it triggers the fight or flight thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, it triggers the defensiveness. And again, it's programming my brain to not hear the criticism and hear it as condescending or hear it as inadequacy, but hearing it in a way where, like, wow, I have somebody who's giving me the advice to be better. You know, that's so dope. Because again, this is a bridge we're most likely going to cross again because we're in a relationship. We're going to argue. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have moments of, you know, problems that we're going to have to solve. And
Well, and it's most
I'm not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to be perfect.
Yeah.
We are literally going to let each other down at some point again. So hearing that constructive criticism is setting
key.
up your future self.
It's
You know what I mean? It's
key.
setting up our future relationship.
Yeah, and I think too a really big thing is just also being understanding to people's intentions. Like, you know, I'm huge on that because a lot of the time like being able to acknowledge like, hey, I can understand how or why that might have hurt your feelings, and I'm sorry that it did, but truly understand that I would never do that intentionally to hurt you. You know what I mean? Because there are people that intentionally do horrible things to people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, they're not remorseful. They
Yep.
don't care to apologize or take accountability or ownership or whatever the case is. But when you're truly capable of taking accountability and being like, you know what, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I'm truly sorry. Those weren't my intentions to, you know, it turn into this. Like, that's not what I thought would happen. But again, when you're able to communicate that, 9 times out of 10, your partner should be willing to be like, no, baby, I understand it's not your intentions. Look, I forgive you, but hey, maybe next time, this is how we should address this, or this is how things should happen.
Oftentimes, that's how we end any of our, you know, disagreements or, you know, situations where we have to resolve an issue is,
And that works really well for us.
you know, and again, it's not a one size fits all for everybody, but
No.
I think again, based on my experience, when you're dealing with somebody you love, essentially, you know, it's coming from a good place. Like you said, intention is really big. So when you understand someone's intention prior to them doing anything, it makes it much easier to be receptive because I know you're not doing it to hurt me. I know you're not saying this to tell me I suck.
Yeah.
I know you're not saying this to make me feel lesser than, because oftentimes, again, we associate criticism and, you know, suggestions and things of that nature. We associate that with some form of inadequacy or we're not doing it right. So so what you're saying is I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then
But
that's
it's
where
good
we get
to
defensive.
learn that just in general, because like even in work, like my job's really big on like if one person does something wrong, we all get called out, and then it gets confusing because it's like, I know I didn't do that, so like why are you telling me this?
Yeah, but I think in a team environment too, you are as strong as your weakest link.
Well, the problem that I've noticed is there's certain people that don't like to be called out because they're not good at handling like criticism and stuff. Whereas me, like I've had to go to my manager and be like, listen, if it's something I legitimately did, I want you to come directly to me, explain to me what I did, show me how to do it correctly.
Yep.
Like I can't sit here and guess what I am or am not doing because you don't want to directly address me. I'm not going to learn that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the thing too. Like it's important to get grasps on being able to take criticism in a positive manner.
Yeah.
Because even if somebody comes to you in a negative way, still take something from that. Still try to learn something from it regardless. You know what I mean?
And again,
'Cause
somebody's delivery too is it's hard to be receptive of that, but if somebody's coming to you with some form of criticism, like how you react to it is the only thing you can control. You know what I mean?
I think that's the most important piece though.
Oftentimes too, it's like we don't know what that person's going through. I know we've said this multiple times, is, you know, being empathetic and, you know, again, trying to pick what you can from.
Yeah, we can't
you know,
control
what
others,
they're bringing to you.
but what you can control how you respond and how you react, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Or even trying to correct the behavior in the moment. Hey, well, was everything okay? Like the way you seem.
Did I do something?
Did I do something? It's the way you're speaking right now. You seem very aggravated, dude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, I just want to make sure we're good. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's a matter of
Being aware.
Yeah, it's a matter of not only being aware, but using those moments of communication for or I guess to create, a positive environment. It's up to us, we're the only people here that we can control what we can control, and again, we can express empathy and understanding to those who approach us. And when you understand somebody's intent, and again, from people you love, it's
A little
easier, it's
deeper.
easier to be receptive. And I think in a team environment as well, like what you were saying at work, like we should be able to address each other. Again, we all are representing the same brand, we're
Yeah.
representing the same team. You are as
Let's
strong as your
be a
weakest.
team.
Yeah, let's be a unit. We are only as strong as our weakest
Yeah.
link. So it's like if 10 of us are, ahead of the pack and 2 of us are falling behind, like the 2 that are falling behind are a representation of the 10 that are leaving them behind.
Yeah.
You guys look like assholes, because here you are fucking ahead of the pack, and you're not
Paying attention.
you're not paying attention to the people who are fucking struggling, and you're not helping, or struggling, you're not helping them. And oftentimes when I think of that, like I think of like how wolves travel in packs. So like there'll be like some of the alpha males will be in the front, but then some of the alpha males will also be all the way in the back, because they keep like the women, children, and the older ones in the middle. So this way they can
protect all
them,
sides.
but also keep them on pace.
Yeah.
Make sure none of them fall behind and shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was pretty dope. You want to get into question time?
Yes.
You guys already know what it is. To the feelers that are tuned in, it is question time, where me and my wonderful wife, we ask each other some engaging questions in regards to the topic. And again, today's topic is defensiveness, putting the walls up, guarding yourself. And go ahead, baby. I will let you take it away. Hit me with it.
All right. So for my first question, what does it truly look like to take ownership? Is it just admitting fault, or is it also showing a commitment to changing the behavior in the future?
I think ownership, because accountability is admitting where you're wrong.
Yes.
But I think when you take ownership of something, it's the next step beyond accountability. It's going, the accountability is, hey, I know I made that mess. I made the mess. That was me. But then the ownership is, what are you going to do about it, though? So when you make the mess, you admitting that you made the mess is the part of holding yourself accountable. But I think the ownership of it is what then means, okay, that's my mess. Now I have to put a plan together on how to clean up said mess or how to correct said behavior. So I think ownership is just the next step after accountability. It's not only identifying the problem and admitting to where you're wrong, but then again implementing a plan of correction. How am I going to avoid this next time? How am I going to grow from this? And I think that's what comes with ownership of the negative behavior, or whatever the case is, the mess in this case.
Yeah, I like that.
Hell yeah, man. I like that question. That was cool. All right, here we go. This is what I got for you. All right, so how has learning to manage your defensiveness changed the way you love?
Significantly, definitely deeper. Because I was somebody who always was quick to be defensive, and I believe a lot of that stemmed not solely based on my childhood. That kind of set the tone, but I think with my, traumatic relationships that I've been in, I think that's what really shaped it for me, because it was more of like a guilty conscience on their side because of the things that they would do, and I was never allowed to call them out. Like, I was shut down immediately because, God forbid, they be wrong in any way, shape, or form of what they did. But a lot of the time, because of their poor actions, I would get accused a lot. And no matter how much I was able to prove my innocence of what I was doing, it wasn't enough. So then it got to a point where, like, it was like an scapegoat for them to be like, okay, well, I'm going to go do what I want because of X, Y, and Z, and leave me stuck behind alone, afraid of constantly being left for somebody else just for you to come back when that doesn't work out or whatever the case is. So like a lot of the time early on in our relationship, I was like on high alert constantly. Like I did have a lot of anxiety to a lot of situations where everything almost made me feel uncomfortable. So a lot of the time when I would bring something to you, because in those early on days, like you also weren't good at communicating. So a lot of the time we would do that back and forth thing where it would be like, but you this, and but you that, and you this, and you that.
Ton of you statements.
That was like the worst part about it, because I couldn't unlearn how to you, and not focus on anything that like I'm actually doing or what I actually need in that moment, because I still didn't.
The shit that I can control.
I didn't even really know how to communicate at that time.
Yeah, we were just like two broken people at the time, like when we first got together. We were two broken people being like, yo, you be doing some broken shit. And we're like, yeah, well, you be doing some broken shit. Instead of being like, I'm doing some broken shit. Yeah. I need to stop the shit that I'm doing. Like, yo, we sucked at that, bro.
Yeah, so...
I'm only broken because you fucking suck. You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, it is so crazy. And again, that's just fucking, you know, stemming from being with people who, you know, didn't want to see didn't want to push us to be better versions of ourselves.
Yeah, and it's like, it wasn't until I just like woke up one day and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I know I don't want to lose my relationship. I love the person that I'm with, but I also never focus on myself. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Yep.
What do I need to actually work on? And then going through school and this healing journey and like looking into all these self-help books and like really applying myself to wanting to be better. Was it that I really, you know, like now, you know, early on, anytime we would fight, you were not allowed to leave that room. We were not leaving each other's sight until this was situated. Now, anything get even a little bit heated, I'm like, I need to walk away. Like,
yeah,
I
actually enjoy that we choose space in those moments where the emotion, where we're about to emotionally erupt. I'm glad that we choose to take space, and that's one of the healthy decisions that we made.
Yeah, like I need to step away now. I need to process a little bit about what exactly is being said, what is happening before I could even address this, because if not, I will get very defensive.
Yep.
I will shut everything down and be like, fuck that. And I don't want to be like that. So I think because of the healthy habits that I've learned, I've decreased the amount of defensiveness that I, you know, feel and express. And it's definitely helped my relationship in a significant manner.
Oh, yeah, I like that, man. Love that.
Thanks.
Hey, what you got for me?
Okay. So, second question.
Go.
If you could pause a conflict and describe the dynamic to a neutral observer, what role would you be playing, and what would the other person be trying to communicate that you are missing?
Can you reiterate that question to me one more time?
All right, so if there's a conflict happening, all right, and then you could pause it, like you could just press pause.
Okay.
And you're describing the dynamic of said conflict to like an outside party who's just neutral, who's not in it. All right. As you're describing it to that person, what role would you be playing from the two in the conflict? And what would that neutral party be playing? Trying to communicate that you are like, what would the other person be trying to communicate to you, basically, of what you're missing?
So I'm in a conflict with somebody, and there's a neutral party, and I'm pausing this conflict so I can explain to them the issue here?
Yes.
Is what you're saying? Okay.
Basically.
I mean, if I had to pause any conflict, I would most likely... I would pause any of our recent ones because... Again, the way we communicate now is just so much different than how we used to communicate. And I would use the recent conflicts just because, A, they're not explosive anymore. So it's not something super destructive or, you know, that gets super out of hand. I think we handle things pretty well. And I can't think of one specific off the top of my head that I would pause, but I would pause it to tell the neutral party, like, I would use it as a learning moment, like, not only to say, like, hey, like, 9 times out of 10, it's, I'm not picking up on, a certain way that I'm speaking or something like that. And I know it, like, hurts your feelings when I have a certain tone or if I raise my voice too much. So, like, that probably would most likely be what I'd be explaining, but it would be something along the lines of you could see here that like they're trying all these different tactics of trying to like, communicate in a healthy way and, trying to take moments where they pause and really try to understand each other. You can see that they're asking each other more questions that instead of exploding or becoming defensive. So I would really use it more as a teachable moment to like a neutral party. And again, it's biased, obviously. Like if I'm explaining to them, like, it'd be different if like I could pause somebody else's situation that we watched together and kind of like break it down. But I think within our situation, I'd use it as like teachable moment just to like kind of show, or even if I could show them like a before and after, like look at them before and then look how they're handling it now. You know what I mean? So this way I could display the growth in a sense to the neutral party. But yeah, most likely using one of our most recent situations as like a teachable moment just to show them that like, there are ways to communicate through the, constructive criticism that you receive in a relationship.
Like that.
Oh, yeah, man. All right, let me see what I got for you.
This is the last one?
No, this is my second one, actually.
Okay. And then two, and then...
One more.
One more each. Yep. Okay.
All right, so what do you think defensiveness is really trying to protect? Your heart, your ego, or something else?
I think it's a combination of a few things. Like, definitely your heart and your ego. Because I think overall it's just our natural way of, feeling like you're in a situation where, like, not only are you wrong, but, like, you're just trying to defend who you are as a person. Because a lot of the time I think that, as humans, we don't want to look at ourselves in negative light. Because it makes things harder. Because a lot of the time we have difficulties processing the things that are wrong about us because we don't want to see that. We want to try to just see us like as either this is who we are, like I don't need to grow, or you know what I mean? Because like those things are hard to face because I know for the longest time, like I didn't see anything wrong with me. To me, that was just who I was. Until, like, I started really growing up and, like, that's not normal. Like, why am I acting like that? I shouldn't act like that. But it took a while for me to even address those things or even be aware to them. Mm-hmm. So I just think that it's just a way of, deterring away from our own feelings, our own insecurities. Things that we don't like about ourselves that we tend to not want to address. And when somebody else calls us out on them, no, we can't do that. You're not about to do that.
Yeah.
Like if anybody's going to call me out on being wrong, it's going to be me.
Right.
And I'm not doing that, so you can't do that. You know what I mean? So
it's
I
almost
think
like prideful in a sense.
Yeah, like it puts you in a place of like I'm not allowing somebody else to call me out for some shit that I don't even feel like is wrong with me.
I can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's dope, yeah. I definitely feel that's a combination of, a culmination of definitely a bunch of different things, because sometimes it can be your heart, sometimes it's your ego, sometimes it's your pride.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's your inability to, again, admit that you're wrong. Like oftentimes people struggle admitting they're wrong because they associate being wrong with being lesser than, or if you're wrong, then you are unworthy, or if you're wrong, then you're unlovable. So people aren't comfortable with the idea of being wrong.
Yeah, it's hard. It really is because growth is uncomfortable. Like becoming a better person is uncomfortable. It's not easy. Become a better
person. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I don't know why I did that. I just thought of that.
Every time I hear that phrase, that's what I want to do every time.
Become another person.
What movie is that from?
That's Master of Disguise.
Yes.
Only, am I not turtle enough for your turtle club? All right, what you got for me?
Okay.
You got one more for me, right?
Yes.
And then I got one more.
Yeah.
And then we'll send them home, baby.
All right, last question.
Go.
How does your default defense mechanism, whether that be denial, counterattacking, etc., how is that actually hindering you from getting what you truly need in a conversation? So what's your
So-
default defense? Like, what's the mechanism your default defense is? And how is that hindering you from getting what you truly need out of the conversation?
Yeah, I think my defensiveness, and I mean, it used to really lie within, my defensiveness really used to lie within, again, the idea of just not being able to admit I was wrong. You know what I mean? Lack of accountability, things of that nature. And granted, I've grown very much since then, but I would say in the peak of my unhealthy defensiveness, the biggest thing that I was missing or what I wasn't getting out of those conversations is oftentimes those conversations were like a cry for help, or, almost like they were supposed to really be the eye openers for me of, I guess the way that what I really was missing is like the conversations where I became the most defensive were the conversations that the people who were speaking to me oftentimes are just holding up a mirror, and I would avoid looking into the mirror and not see anything wrong with what I was doing, and more or less be like, fuck you for holding the mirror.
Yeah.
Because again, all you're doing is just showing me how I'm fucking up. And instead of me being like, oh yeah, that reflection, not a good fucking reflection. Instead of being like, fuck you for holding the mirror. I don't want to fucking see that shit. Don't be fucking talking to me about what the fuck I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's like avoidance, if you will. It's like a sense of avoidance, or it's like a form of avoidance where it's like, instead of looking at the reflection and wanting to correct the behavior, I was getting upset at the idea that you were holding up the mirror to me. And I think oftentimes in relationships, especially the one that you truly love, like the woman you really love is going to be the one that holds the mirror up for you. You know, it's the one that shows you, I don't care how rah-rah you get. I don't care how upset you get. Look at yourself. Look at you.
Yeah.
Is that the man you want to be? Or is that the person you want to be? And I think that was at the peak of my defensiveness, was my difficulty is just, I don't know every form of defensiveness, but, I just know that was where my biggest struggle was being unable. I was unable to look at my own reflection, and what I was missing out on those conversations is those people were just merely trying to show me where I could improve. And instead of looking at it as a way to improve, I was looking at it as you telling me I'm inadequate in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And thus resulting in defensiveness and being like, nah, you're not going to tell me about myself,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I like that.
Hell yeah, man. All right, I got one more for you, baby.
Do it.
All right, so when you catch yourself getting defensive now, what's the thought or feeling that usually comes up first?
Definitely anxiousness. I literally feel it from like the pit of my stomach. And I just feel it, like I get hot and like I'm quick to want to be like, no. But again, I've learned to give myself a second. Like, let me really process what I'm being told right now or what I'm being asked. You know what I mean? Like, I owe it to myself within my growth to allow this other person to be heard, give myself the chance to understand what's being said, to be able to respond appropriately. So for me, it's just like, there's times I still definitely get defensive where maybe it's something that I haven't really touched on yet, I haven't gotten to yet, but then I really take that as a teachable moment where I might catch myself responding in a defensive way, but then I'm able to like reel it back in and be like, you know what, like, maybe you're right. Maybe I didn't handle that the way that I probably should have. I'll make a mental note of this. Like, next time I find myself in this position, I know now that like that's probably not the way I should go about it. And maybe I'll try something different. I'll try a different approach. But I'm way better at taking things in a more, optimistic way and take it more of like a learning experience instead of just being so quick to shut it down to try to protect myself. Because I know now that I'm not going to grow without that type of criticism, getting that type of feedback, being able to understand it. And I'm a really good judge of character now of like being able to differentiate. I can't say that word to save my life.
Differentiate?
That between like when it's coming from a very like.
You're so adorable.
Thanks. When it's coming from a very negative, like not a good place versus somebody who actually gives a shit and wants to see me do better. Like, I can tell the difference now. Whereas, like, when I know it's something very negative, I don't even want to hear it. Like, goodbye. Like, I don't even got time to, like, listen to you. I'm not going to give you my energy or fight back. Like, I don't have to defend shit because you just sound stupid.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, good talk.
Basically. So, it's just, again, like, a lot of it has to do with growth and just understanding of yourself, who you want to be, where you want to be, and just being open to wanting to be better.
Yeah, I like that. And I love that for you.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, baby. All right, guys. Well, we are going to send them home. And to all the feelers that are tuned in, you guys already know the vibes, man. We leave you guys with a question that you guys can answer under the video or on the socials. Again, let's see what we got here. So the question we want to leave you guys with is, what would change in your relationships if you felt safe enough to listen before defending yourself?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, man. So make sure you guys answer it below if you guys are watching this on YouTube or if you see us on your socials, because, again, you never know when the why in your story is silent and it becomes our story. And, yeah, man, until next time, guys, keep feeling.
Keep sharing.
And keep it real within the feels, baby. Woo, woo.